Today, Australia Day, we're going to learn Daf Pei Hey. We're continuing to talk about the 5 different payments that one needs to pay if they perpetrated a crime against somebody else, they wounded somebody else. We have nezek, damage, tsar, pain, ripui, medical bills, sheves, unemployment, ubaishes, and the shame. So the Gemara doesn't work its way through each one. And right now we're going to talk about the pain. How do you assess pain? You know, because a person was hurt, you have to pay him for the nezek that you caused, and also have to pay him for the pain. How do you assess pain? So we learned yesterday about that it's possible to have pain without even a nezek. We said, the Mishnah said that if you hurt somebody's nail, so it's not really damage, you still cause pain. But if there is damage involved, how in the world do you assess the value of the pain? So we're up to the Gemara that pay at Aleph, 4 lines at the top of the page. Says the Gemara, where it says, Kama Adam little. The Mishnah says when it comes to pain, we work out how much a person would take for this kind of a pain. How does that work? So the Gemara will explain. How exactly does that work out? How do you assess it? Amar Abu Shmuel, the father of Shmuel said, we assess it. Kama Adam writes a little. How much are you willing? You'll say, look, you want to chop my hand off, fine, but I want $1,000 for it. So we work out how much are you willing to take in order to lose your hand, let your hand be amputated, and that's the value of that's the value. Says the Gemara. Okay. Says the Gemara, we don't understand something. If we're going to amputate his hand, it's not a question only of pain. You have if you amputate a hand, there's damage, pain, unemployment. How do you know how to isolate the pain and say, the total damage might be worth $10,000, but what proportion of that is pain? How does that work? Says the Gemara. But furthermore, we're talking about idiots, fools. Who's going to be willing to lose his hand for any amount of money? Ella liktoya yoda haktuya. Let's say you already have a hand that's severed from the rest of the body, just hanging by a few pieces of skin. So it's just a question of removing the hand altogether. So it's no longer a question of nezek, because the hand already has been severed from the rest of your body. So now the question is, how much money will you, be happy to remove your hand? So there's not just tsar. There's not only pain, there's also shame, because at least when your hand is still, even though it's hanging, you have a hand. But now if you minus a hand, you're an amputee, it's embarrassing. Not only is you missing a hand, but what do they do with the hand? They bury it or they give it to dogs to feed. So therefore, it is coupled with shame. So how do you isolate pain? Ella, we says, let's say the government decided that you have to amputate your hand. That's your punishment. How much are you willing to take? If they say to you, look, according to the government, we can just use some kind of a medicine or some kind of a potion that will be painless. If we don't give you that potion, we don't put you to sleep, we don't give you an anesthetic, and we cut your hand, it'll be a lot of pain. How much money will you take for that to allow that to happen? And that's how we value pain. Because either way, you're going to lose your hand. First of all, we don't believe anybody's prepared to put up with that kind of a pain and for any amount of money. And to cause himself, we don't think it's realistic. So Ella fakert. All the way around. The government said we should amputate the hand using a sword. You say, how much are you willing to pay to that executioner so that he should give me an anesthetic, and it should be painless? And that is how we value the price of pain. Says the Gemara, okay, that makes sense, but we have a technical problem. The Mishnah says, how much are you willing to take? And you're telling me how much are you willing to give, how much are you willing to pay? The Mishnah should have said, and how much are you willing to pay to remove the pain? No, this is how we do it. How much are you willing to pay to alleviate the pain? And that amount is what the nizik takes from the mazik. What you would have given to remove the pain, that is how much you will receive from the person who was chayvul, from the person who went ahead and caused you that wound in the first instance. Okay, so we worked out how to isolate pain. Next on medical bills. We'll focus now on the medical bills. For how long do you have to continue paying the medical bills, and what happens as a partial recovery? What happens? Other things happen Is it as a result, or even not as a result? How far do we go with this pain, with these medical bills that the chayvul, the perpetrator, has to pay? Says the Gemara, "Ripoy hikeyu chayiv l'rapaisei." We learned. What about if Ola b'tzmachim? He has some kind of growths that happened. But there's two kinds of growths. One is machmas hamaka, a direct result from the wound that I caused you, that caused this growth or whatever it is. And there's another possibility. It happened right afterwards, but it's not really related to it. So we're gonna have different opinions here. If he had different growths, machmas hamaka, a direct result because of the wound that I caused. The nistra hamaka. And then let's say that now that you have this mark over there, got healed. Nevertheless, you have to heal him not only for the makkah, but you also have to cure him from these growths that happened as a result. Even though the makkah itself got healed, but these tzmachim came out as a direct result, emerged because of the makkah, so you have to cure him of that as well. But in addition, the chayiv litnei dmei shifta, you also have to pay him, and now because of these growths he can't work, so you have to pay him unemployment benefits as well, because he can't work right now because of these growths. Says the Gemara. What about shalei machmas hamaka? What about, let's say he got sick, but it's not a direct result because of what I did? Then you don't have to cure him, and we'll talk about that soon. This part. The Tana Kama. This is the first Tana. The Tana Kama holds. Okay, if you hurt him directly, then you have to pay. So not only do you pay him for what do you call it? You have to cure him, and you also have to pay him unemployment benefits. So there's two payments you have to make. If there's a direct outgrowth, and that is the medical bills and unemployment. However, if he got sick, not a direct result of what you did, then you don't have to pay medical bills. Then you have to pay him unemployment. He's sick. It's another thing. Don't do with me. That's Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda is going to learn one of these payments you have to make, and one of them you don't. In a case where it's a direct outgrowth. No, this is not the direct wound. This is an outgrowth from the wound. Rabbi Yehuda says, I agree with you that you have to pay the medical bills, but you don't have to pay the unemployment, because this is not what I did directly. This is an outgrowth. And the Chachamim say, if it's an outgrowth, you pay nothing. The rules as follows. They go hand in hand, because the pasuk puts the two together. If you chai for unemployment, chai b'ripui. But you're not chai for unemployment, ain't chai b'ripui. You have three opinions. The first Tana, the Tanakama says, you pay even the outgrowth, you pay the medical bills and the unemployment. Rabbi Yehuda says you pay the medical bills and not unemployment. And the Chachamim say, since you don't pay the unemployment, neither do you pay the medical bills. So they agree with Rabbi Yehuda, you don't pay unemployment. And the moment you don't do that, you don't pay medical bills. So what's going on here? What's the argument? I once found the rabbis in the house of Rav, Yeshiva Rav, the Yasik company, they were discussing this very point, and they said as follows: over here, all arguing about a case. If you would have left the wound uncovered, then it would have healed properly. But the thing is, it's uncomfortable because it's cold and it's a lot of discomfort. If you put a bandage on it, you take away that discomfort. However, it causes the outgrowth. So you sort of a little conundrum here. What do you do? So that's the argument here. They're talking about the makkah nitna le'egek mifgei. If there's a wound, is the nechbel, the victim, permitted to put a band-aid, and by putting a band-aid there, you make heat, generate heat, and that heat causes scabs to happen and other things. But on the other hand, it makes him more comfortable, because the cold somehow or another it causes them immense pain. He's a bonus already, but the Rabban here means the Tanakama. The Rabbanan hold nitna le'eged, he has every right to do it, and therefore there's an outgrowth, the chayvul has to pay for that as well. Why should it be uncomfortable? He has every right to put a bandage on it, and now that it caused other problems, it's all part and parcel of what happened. You shouldn't have wounded him in the first place. Rabbi Yehuda holds makil loy nitna leged. Rabbi Yehuda holds no. You have no right to put the bandage on it because you caused the outgrowth. Eye is uncomfortable, okay, but you caused the outgrowth. So ripui. So why are you paying medical bills? Why is the chayav paying medical bills? Ripui, the Torah repeats itself, right? The Torah says v'rape yirape. Why say double? To tell you heal in normal circumstances, and you also have to heal him, cure him, if he caused it himself because of the discomfort. So v'rape yitana mechayiv. So there you have to pay, even though it's the nechbel's fault somewhat because he put that bandage on too bad. The chayiv has to pay. By shevis the Torah doesn't repeat itself. Then why should I pay for the unemployment when you did it to yourself? Even though I did it because of you, but you did it. But I said I don't agree with you because I said if Rabbi Yehuda holds that if the Rabbi Yehuda holds that the guy had no right to put the bandage, then even though the Torah repeats the word v'rape yirape, there's no reason why the chayvul should be paying for it. You mamish did it for yourself. You had no right to do it. True, because of the discomfort that I caused, but you had no right to put the bandage. Why should I pay? You shouldn't pay anything. Ella. So he said, I'll agree with you slightly, but I'll amend it a bit. Everyone holds that if there's immense discomfort, you're allowed to put a bandage on. But you say that, but you shouldn't make it too tight. And by not making it too tight, you still somewhat you alleviated the discomfort to a certain extent, but you shouldn't make it too tight, and you did. So here it's a little bit different. You're not so culpable than the victim because you're allowed to put the bandage on. He just made it tighter than he should have. So Rabbi Yehuda holds, Rabbi Yehuda holds, since you shouldn't make it too tight, but it's not as bad as originally we thought you shouldn't put a bandage at all. So Ripui the Torah says twice. So we're going to hold you, and we're going to say that you have to pay his medical bills because you sort of caused him to put the bandage on, which is allowed to, and then he just made it tighter. Or but unemployment, the Torah repeat, you don't have to pay. And the second Rabbanan say that you pay nothing. Kiva and the Tanakama Beripoi, sorry, the Rabbanan Sabi, the first, the Tanakama, who says you pay everything. The Tanakama says once you pay for the medical bills, and since the two are next to each other, the juxtaposition of the words, so therefore we say you have to pay also for the unemployment. Kiva the Tanakama Beripoi. Once the Torah repeats itself, so you also pay the unemployment because in the same pasuk they're next to each other. They're next to each other because it says so it's right next to each other about unemployment and medical bills. The Ishkish Levi and Rabbi Yehuda decided to separate the two. The fact that there's a hekesh, why don't you agree with Tanakam? But once you pay the medical bills, pay also another one. Rabbi Yehuda holds sheves le'mechayv. You know, we don't have to pay the unemployment. The miyat rachmana, the Torah excluded it by saying v'rak shifta yitin, only the unemployment, only, and not what. And not in the case where the guy brought it upon himself, where he made it tighter the bandage than he should have. But Rabbanan, no Tanakam, what does he do? If he's telling you that if the unemployment is not because of the wound, for example, the doctor told him not to do something and he defied the instruction of the doctor, he knows better, then I don't have to pay the unemployment. That's what the Rak comes to exclude. The last opinion, the third opinion, they say since you don't pay unemployment, nor do you pay the medical bills, also believe in the hekesh, but they use Rak to tell you don't pay the unemployment, and once you establish you don't pay the unemployment, you don't pay medical bills either. So the Rabbanan Basroi you don't pay unemployment. So why taka the Torah repeat itself to include what according to the Rabbanan? According to it comes to include that if the guy added a little bit, made it tighter, you still have to pay him. The boile, the famous Tana of Rabbi Shmuel, the Tanya we learned. The way Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shmuel says, "V'rape yerape." Why the Torah repeat twice? Mekan shenitin reshus l'reifel rapes. Here we learn out that a doctor has permission to heal. Why does a doctor need permission to heal? That we need the Torah say rape yerape. So Taisha says here a fascinating thing that we would have thought. It's one thing is if the guy brought the sickness on himself, he was running and he tripped over something or whatever it is, okay, so you have to heal him. But if somebody became sick because the Eibishter is sick, someone suddenly has cancer or any other sickness that came from the Eibishter, do I have a right to overturn the Eibishter's will? The Eibishter's will is this person should be sick. Maybe you have no right to cure that person. So mekan nitnu the Torah l'shus l'rapes. That's what Taisa says. The Ramban in Teres Adam has a whole arichas on this, and he says, no, a doctor, I need the reshus. A doctor might say, what happens if I go ahead and cure this guy and I kill him by mistake, malpractice? I'm gonna be charged. So why would I why get involved in the first place? I might mess up. So and what's the din? If he amazes, he kills the person. Obviously, he's like any other murderer. If he made a mistake, he goes to Golus, exile, like anybody else. But if he didn't make a mistake, this is the procedure known at that time. So he did the right thing. And the person, who's making an operation, the person passed away, which happens very often. That's the Abish's delete. And he's not guilty at all. So the poil, it seems to the Gemara here, it's only a reshus. It's only a reshus. But the Rambam writes, and brought down Shulchan Aruch, once it's a reshus to overcome these two issues that we just said, now you have a mitzvah. What is the mitzvah? The Rambam actually doesn't bring Barapi Rapi. The Rambam brings V'hashevoi Soloi. We had a few days ago, Shevoi Soloi, that's not Rosh HaShabbos Aveda, but give the person back his goof. So V'hashevoi Soloi is that you have a mitzvah to Shabbos Aveda to give him back his life. Or, Nochmer, Pikuach Nefesh. And because it's Pikuach Nefesh, therefore, it's a mitzvah. But on Shabbos, we push away to help people out. That means it's Pekuach Nefesh, to help them out. There's a famous Ramban in Parashat B'chukoisai. I just looked up to double check. Ramban says in Parashat B'chukoisai on the posik here, V'nosati mishkoni b'seichichem. The Ramban towards the end talks about the Gemara said Rabbi Yosef, when he allowed Rabbah to become a yeshiva, a doctor didn't come to visit his house. So the Ramban, so some people in Pshat is they were such a humble person, he went to visit the doctor. The Ramban said that's not Pshat in the Torah at all. That's not Pshat the Gemara. The Gemara is saying that he never went to a doctor because it's against our emunah. A person should believe in Hashem, and therefore you should not go to a doctor. And there's no mitzvah to go to a doctor. On the contrary. So the Ramban says, Gemara says, Mekan Nitnashus. So he says, the doctor has a right to heal. But who gave you permission to go to the doctor in the first place? Fascinating. The Taz writes, it's difficult to understand the Ramban. So the Taz writes, a Simon Shin Lamed Vav, I think it is in Yordea, that the Ramban is talking about great tzaddikim. Like Yosef, tzaddik, was punished. He spent an extra 2 years in jail because he turned to the Saramashkin, the button, and asked him, remember me before Paray. So therefore, tzaddikim like that shouldn't go to a doctor. And that's what he meant from Rabbi Yosef, that he didn't go to a doctor because he was a tzaddik and he believed in the Eibishter. However, everybody else should go to a doctor. In fact, it's a mitzvah. And now that it's a mitzvah, actually it's a problem. If you learn it's only rishus to go to a doctor, and the doctor can charge you whatever he wants. The moment it became a mitzvah, we have a rule: ma'ani bechinam afatim bechinam. Just like a rov is not allowed, a dying is not allowed to charge. So most poskim hold that a doctor is not allowed to charge for his what do you call it, his curing or whatever he does, his surgery. And why is he allowed to charge? Merely schar batola, the time that he could have done something else. Could have been a doctor over goyim. That's all what you can charge. Others say that Tashbatz, he wants to say, no, that since who should I have to be the doctor? Go to no doctor. And therefore I have a right to charge. But the Yerushalmi says that not every doctor, Yerushalmi doesn't spell it out, but we explain in Yerushalmi that every doctor has a malach that escorts the doctor. And not every doctor's malach is the one that's right for you. So mainly just because there's 10 doctors doesn't mean that all of them have the capacity to heal you and that you can go to a number of doctors. We always get a second opinion for that reason, so on and so forth. Anyway, interesting discussion. We had in Mar Brachas Daf Yud where they hid the sefer that Chizkiah HaMelech. One of the things he did was he took there's a sefer of medicine and he hid it. And the general pshat there is that Shlomo HaMelech wrote it, the sefer of Refuos, and Chizkiah hid it. Why? Because people stopped going talking, davening to Hashem. They just looked at the sefer. So others had different pshatim there. The Rambam says it had all these constellations, and people start to believe in that, and the Rambam holds the whole thing is a farce. But the idea is that really you're supposed to do both. You're supposed to go to the doctor, and while you're going to the doctor, daven to the Eibishter that he should that this doctor should be the shliach and to cure you. And I told you once a beautiful pshat in the Magi, if I remember correctly. But listen right there. We have time to tell you afterwards. Saying about it further. Okay. Talking about another brayse. Minayin, how do you know Shima Ola Beitz Machim? How do you know that if he had a growth? Machmas Hamaka, directly result of the Maka, Venistra Hamaka, and got healed. Shechayev Rapoisa, you have to also heal the what do you call it? The growths as well, the scabs and all that. The chayiv litin l'shifta, which is like the Tana Kama that we had in the first brisa. You got to pay unemployment. The juxtaposition of the two. Once you give him, you pay for his medical bills, you do as well. I would have thought that even if the growth had nothing to do with the makkah, I should pay for it. And the Gemara will explain soon. Rabbi Yesi by Yehuda, I mean, af machmas hamaka potter. Rabbi Yesi by Yehuda says that no, that even if it's the direct growth from the makkah, you are potter. The Gemara will explain. Says the Gemara, it says rak. Only the makkah itself, not if it's an outgrowth of the makkah. So how do you understand Pshat and Rabbi Yosef Yehuda? Some say, what do you potter from? Ach machmas hamaka potter legamri karabani. Hold like the second opinion. Once you're potter from unemployment, because you also potter from the medical bills, and karabani basrei, like the second rabbanon in the previous brisa. Vigadamri ach machmas hamaka potter mishav is unemployment. Abachai buripi kiman kibu like his father. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who said before, you pay medical bills, and you don't pay unemployment, and Rabbi Yehuda said the same thing. You just said in the Braisa, I would have thought that there's a growth, nothing to do with the makkah. I would have to pay. I need a pause to tell me that if you got sick, nothing to do with what I did to you, I have to pay you. We say, what does it mean when it says time we learned how to show? But let's say he defied the instructions of the doctor because he thinks he knows better. It seems that honey, sometimes, even though manuka honey is supposed to be the therapy for everything, see, the honey sometimes has an adverse effect. A kolmin or any kind of sweet thing might have an adverse effect, and they should vash kolmin koshin lamaka. It harms somehow or another, exacerbates the wound. The hella makose gagunusi, and suddenly that the makkah started to have a growth of gagunusi. What was saying that is. So the fact is, it was a direct cause from the makkah, but because you didn't listen. But I would have thought that. But the fact is, it ultimately came back. If it wouldn't be for the makkah and you ate the honey, nothing would have happened. So maybe you can attribute it back to me, the chayvul, the perpetrator. Well, there's rak. My gaguse. What in the world is gaguse? I'm going to buy it. Nosa krichte. Dead flesh. It's dead flesh. But you could know that's what it causes. Honey somehow or another causes that. My asuse, what's the cure for that if you do have it? Either ole, that's alloy, some kind of a chemical, the kita or wax, and the kalba, the dregs of the bottom of the wine. What happens the following? The person says, I'm a doctor. I'll cure you. The nechbel has a right, the victim has a right to say to him, don't miss like ayab. You to me like a lion wants to ambush me. You killed me and now you want to save me. Don't trust you. And it's very important that the patient has confidence in what the doctor does. It's not just the medicine; it's also the mindset as well. If the guy said, the chayvul said, look, you know what, my sina asya, the muggin, I have a doctor who lives me for free, and I'll send to you. Like the insurance companies, they force you to go to their people that they, fix cars. I'll give you my doctor, and it's for free. The muggin charge nothing. Amalei, he said to him a famous saying, asya the muggin shava. A doctor who cures you for free, that's exactly what the value is. You get what you pay for. I'll bring it. That's right. I'll bring a doctor from far away who's supposed to be a world expert. He has a right to say, he's blind to everything. You think he cares about reputation? He doesn't live here. He'll come here, he'll do 1, 2 chuck and he'll go and get away. I want a doctor who's local, so he cares about his work because he knows that if it doesn't work out, he'll have a terrible reputation. The victim says, you give me the money and I'll go find my own doctor. What happens if you don't follow the doctor's things and then you'll take more money and you'll say it didn't work and everything else? No, I'm going to send you to a proper doctor. Make it. So let's work out a price and whatever it is, give me the money. No, you'll take the money. You'll never go to the doctor. And then everybody in town will accuse me of being of the ones harming you. No, we're going to fix it up. So they both have rights. learn that all of these other payments, even if I pay you already for the nezik, I got to pay these additional things as well. I mean, how do you know you pay all that? It says the kviyat, which is a burn for boil for burn for burn. Then it says petzedachas patza, a wound for a wound, another kind of a wound in place of a wound. So what does the petzedachas patza tell you? That this, and we learn from here, pain litin tsar b'makom nezik. That even though I'm going to pay you nezik because it's kviyat, I'm also going to pay you for tsar, and Taisha already before in the second page it says all the other things we learn from tsar, that you have all these payments, even though I'm paying you, because when I pay you for nezik, I'm paying you for everything. No, I also got to pay for these individual things. So we use it for the rabbi sheikh gemezid ba'oines karatzen. That even was done b'sheigik, and even was done ba'oines. He's not to pay all those things. My petza tachas potza shmamna tagline. Two things from here. Even if it was a shaking, you got to pay all these payments. And we also learn from here that even though you're paying for the damages, you got to pay these additional payments. The Papa learns from the word rape. The double word rape. I tell you that in addition to why extra words, to say even though you're paying for the damages, you got to pay for the medical bills as well. So we just used it before for another drasha. Didn't we just say we needed to get Torah Bishmol, but rape? We can't from here now. That a doctor has a right to give it to a heal. If that's all the drasha we have, the doctor should heal. Shmamina litin refuah b'makom nezik. To teach another, Rabbi teach also that in addition to nezik, you pay all these other damages. We still need the Rabbi lemista beikra berifui. We need what it goes. What it goes? Lemista beikra berifui to tell you that what you pay again and again by reap. Remember the growth and the out, direct and the outgrowth. We said before. Why is it repeated twice to tell you that tzmachim you also pay for? So we need it for that. Im kain lei makra oy rape twice, oy rape, and I would know that you paid directly and also the things that happen as a result. My ver rape, why change the word around? Shmam and alit and fu makom nezek. Well, three things from here. We learned that you have a reshus. We learn that why do you pay for the outgrowth as well, and we also learn from here, according to the Papa in the name of Rabba, that you pay in addition to nezek, you pay all these other payments. The fact that you're telling me that you have to pay these things where there's damage is, and we bring a pasuk, all these extra psukim that really you pay these things when there's no damage. I need a pasuk. Now, how can you have tsar if there's no damage? What do you mean the tsar? You pay for tsar when there's no damage. How is that possible? What do you mean you pay medical bills when there's no damage? What am I paying medical bills for? The way the Gemara seems to be speaking here is that it's a chiddush to say that even though I'm paying you for the nezek, for what I hurt you, the harm I did for you, I also have to pay these additional payments. In other words, really the pshat in the Torah is that you pay all these additional payments when there's no damage. And we have a pasuk teach you even when there is damage. So give me an example of each one of these that you can pay medical bills even though there's no damage. That you can pay shame, you can pay unemployment, and there's no damage. Physical damage. Yeah, so we're going to. That's one thing Gemara doesn't say, but we're going to learn in physical as well. So we already learned one that if you hurt him on his nail, it's not really damage; it goes right back, but nevertheless, it's pain. Says the Gemara. They called him Tzah, we already learned in the Mishnah. Tzah, kobla, b'shapu, b'misamed, afil al tzaparna. Okay, by tzah, pain, we learned in the Mishnah. If you happen to use a hot rod or you use, let's say, a nail and you banged it into the nail of the person's hand, that's pain, but there's no damage here, no lasting damage. Mokum she'einu oisachabur, in a place where there's no damage, no wound. Ripui, what's the case of medical bills? To have koivle midi v'solik. That what happens is, let's say it hurt, and it got healed. You heard whatever, it got healed. And the isolate summer khalifa, then you brought him the strong medicine. The medicine turned the color of his skin to white. So now I have to give him more medicine to revert back to your natural skin color. Interesting why the Gemara doesn't say psychological thing, because the Rambam already in the first page in Shabbos talks about, he learns pshat in the Mishnah that depression is a medical issue, and you're allowed to extinguish a candle on Shabbos because of depression. So why the Gemara doesn't say that here? or maybe they didn't have any medicine, even though depression is a medical issue. They didn't have any medicine for it at that time. Says the Gemara, but the Gemara did recognize that depression is a medical issue, which is way ahead of the rest of the world. Shevis, what's the case of unemployment without wounding? The hot cave in Drune, that what happened was he blocked him up in a room. They couldn't go to work. So you didn't hurt him, but you denied him employment. So you have to pay his unemployment. And Boishes, the Rokle Bapa, he spat in front of him. The guy is disgusted by it. He's repulsed by it. But what damage did you make him? No, nothing. But you still humiliated him, as we had the Gemara Chagiga there. A terrible thing to spit in front of somebody. Sheves, okay, now what's going to say? How do you pay unemployment? We don't pay unemployment. Let's say you could have picked up the rubbish and all that and get paid, or something like that. We get paid well. Because when we pay nezek, how do we determine nezek? We say this Eved who could have picked up the rubbish is worth X amount of dollars. Now that he can't because he was harmed, he was hurt. And that's the difference. We pay the nezek. So we already covered that. But at least he could have worked. He could have worked as a guard, a security guard. But now, because he's lying in bed, because what you did for the next month or two, he can't even do that. So we have to pay him unemployment benefits of what he could have done while he was sick. While he was sick, cucumber. He's watching cucumbers. He's watching a cucumber patch. It's not fair. This person, once he becomes well, he's not going to be a guard for cucumbers. He'll be a water carrier. Get paid a lot more. So you should pay him unemployment being a water carrier. Well, he could have been a courier, it could have been an Uber person, and now he can't do that. Why'd you pay more? So we answer, it's not a question of that we're unfair. When we assess the damage to the hand and the foot, that's what we include. We could have done, and now we can't do it. Now, very interesting. Taisa says that the Gemara uses examples of a water carrier, which there's no particular skill, but you get paid more than being a security guard. But if you have a particular skill, and now you can't do that as a result of the damage, then you have to pay unemployment of that particular skill. Not of a security guard, but of that particular skill. If you could have continued doing that skill, while sick, but now because he's in bed, he can't do that, you have to pay for that. What about cut his yada? Let's say you amputate his hand. Okay, you pay the value of the hand. The shevis, and what's unemployment? Only now is a security guard. That's what you pay. Once he broke his foot and we assess the damage now that he can't, so you can't say, oh, if you wouldn't be lying in bed, you could have been a security guard. If you can't walk, what kind of security guard are you? If somebody breaks in, you can't stop the guy. The noise made ragloi, the chef, what's unemployment? His job is to stand by the door, and he can still stand in one place, and he can obstruct the way from people who don't belong there. Simes Einav, you blinded his eye. You can't be that either. You can't see who's coming. So if he wouldn't have been in bed, what could he have done that now that he's lying in bed, I'm gonna have to give unemployment of that? He gave him the value of the eye, the loss, and therefore obviously he gets a lot more money because he can't do anything, practice anything. He can still stand there and be a miller, and he can't do that anymore. So you pay unemployment of that. That's even less money. You made him deaf and dumb, and you hear the Gemara says that if somebody's deaf and dumb is worse than somebody blind. He's now useless. What could he do? Can't do anything. Is noisily make cooler. When you assess the damage at that juncture, you say, well, what's the value of this person as an Eved, and what's the value? He can't be an Eved. So you pay the full value. Everything else you say is still an Eved, but he can't do all of these chores. He can do lesser chores. So therefore, there's a value now. It's a lot less than what it was if he could do all the chores. But a person who's a chedesh who cannot hear or speak has zero value. So you pay him already for the nezek. You pay everything. There's nothing left to pay for Shevis. There's nothing he could have done, even without lying in bed being sick. What else could he do? Says the Gemara. And the Achrayim, by the way, talk about today, because after the story of Helen Keller and all that, where she trained herself to play piano, she couldn't hear, and so on and so forth, that today maybe everything is different. Boy, Rabba says, Kota es yodoi, the knock of his hand, now he has a question. What happens if he asked a question. Kota's yodoi, he amputated his hand, they didn't take him to court yet. The doesn't not assess the damage. And then Shibris Ragel, before they went to court, this guy, this Chayvel, he was a maniac. He broke down the guy's leg. We still hadn't got to court yet. Then Simes Einoi, blinded his eye. Remember, every stage of the way, he's worth less and less and less because he can do less chores, as we just said. The end. He made a chiddush. Mao. Do we do it like piecemeal? One, do we go when you go to court? Do we go each stage, or do you just put it all together and say, well, as an Eved versus nothing? Me, I'm going to keep them do bechad sagile. Since we didn't assess anything, we'll make one and that's it. The yard will make kula bechad yadadi. We give him one lump sum. Amdinan, and we assess each one separately. The yavin we give him. What's the difference? The nafkamina, okay, when it comes to medical bills and all that, he hasn't yet expended any money because he hasn't gone to the doctor. He hadn't yet anything. And Sheva's also unemployment. We didn't have a chance yet to work anything out. Right now, he's worth nothing. So, but where is nafkamina is the moyel mesulet sara boishes. There was pain along each time you did something to him. You caused additional pain. So if you do it in one lump sum, there's sort of one pain. One long pain. There's a certain amount of money. But if you were going to treat it as 4 different cases, each case we're going to rule, you got to give him X amount of dollars for the pain in this case. Another case in isolation. So he'll make a lot more money. Pain, and same thing with shame. True, we don't give him the nezik and the ripa and shevas of each one. It's it's the aggregate of them all. Taisha disagrees about the medical bills because each one deserves other medical attention. They keep the Kiyov to make cool command to cut the dummy. Since you pay him, it's like if you killed him because now he has zero value, right? If now that he reached the stage of a chedesh, he has no value whatsoever. And the Yovlet make cool, and he gives him the full money. Tsar when it comes to pain and shame, me the kolchad v'chad the yoiv tablet tsar boishes because each stage of the way there's a separate tsar, separate boishes or not. Is it one? Now, you're going to tell me, since we did not assess him at all in between, you give him one lump sum. What happens to him? They did assess him, but the money never transferred. Mao. Each time they made a new thing, you have to pay medical bill. So now he has to pay four different sums. Because the fact is the money did not transfer yet, and now at the very end, this guy is a chedesh, so he's worthless. He just gives him the full amount in one go because now he's like a dead person. Teku. Rabba asked the question now. What about, let's say, you hit him that he cannot work, but it's only short term. Because eventually he'll go back to normal. Even he broke his leg, you put him in a cast. 6 weeks later, he can, he can jump around and run around again or whatever. Everything is short term. So if he would have been sold today as a slave minus a leg, he can't minus use of a leg. It's a big amount of money. But on the other hand, in 2 months from now, if you put him on the market, he'll retain his full value. So how do you assess that? So do I have to pay you at all for the loss of income or the loss of whatever use of your leg for the 2 months that you cannot use your leg? Short term. He devalues the person short term. Now, what's it in? Hey, what do you mean? You hit him on the hand, with some and your hand sort of became you cannot use your hand. You cannot use the use of your hand. Once you get everything go back to normal, you can use it again. Keeping the because it'll revert back to normal, I owe you nothing. Ideal mahash to me is afkase, but right now there was a loss. I should pay you. Toshma, yeah, but talking about all the other things is all the other you have to pay. Okay, Shabbos, yeah, unemployment. That's true. So then we look at it separately. You're a goyim. As a loss of work, you're only a grama, and a grama you don't pay. The Torah has a special din called Shabbos. So what happens here? Here, there's no medical bills, nothing else, because it goes back to normal on its own. There's nothing to do. Give you a hand, you sprained your leg. You do nothing. A couple of weeks later, it gets back to normal. So what happens in this case here? First, we're coming here. If somebody strikes his father and mother, but he didn't make a chabura, if he did a chabura, he didn't make a chabura when it was finished, or you hurt your friend on Yom Kippur, the kulan, you have to pay the 5 different things. What do you mean you didn't wound your parents? Going, what do you mean didn't read the parents? I'm doing a hezek, but without a chabura. So what did I do? It's a temporary thing. You hit him on the hand, and eventually the hand will come back to normal. You got to pay. So it's clear that even a temporary, pain, harm, I guess, you have to pay. My skin, no raya. We're talking about a case where you made him deaf and dumb, but you didn't make a chabura. And that's why you pay all 5 things, but you don't get misa for it. Because there's no dam, there's no chabura. Chabura is you have to make a wound and there's blood. And there isn't. So what are you talking about? Didn't Rabba himself say, as aviv, if somebody makes his father deaf and dumb by hitting him, nereg, he gets killed for it. You know why? Tipsa, the dumb enough somewhere internally must have been bleeding. Otherwise, how did it become deaf and dumb? Something, one of the veins, whatever it became, the arteries was ruptured, and definitely there's a trickle of blood there. So how do you have 5 to pay the 5 things? A lot of chabura. You know what I'm talking about? He gave his father a haircut. And Gilchay, and I guess here he completely shaved his head, and what do you call it? Because he shaved his head, he has less value right now, and there's no chabur here. Says the Gemara, the hair grows right back. She said, behind the bayan. That's exactly my question. Now, I guess not in those days they get bold, but now that he has no hair on his head, his worth less. So you have to pay for that, compensate. It's clearly here, you have to. So it's not going to resolve my question. Moshe said, no. You know what kind of haircut he gave him? You put some kind of a cream, a potion on it that killed the follicles, and therefore the hair will never grow back. It is and because it never grew back, that's why you have to pay the 5 things. My question is, when it's a temporary loss, what happens then?